change because I get really bored really easy. So change is always good for me. I get excited by it. I hope you guys get excited by it too. So I wasn't excited at all when I heard that NAR was settling because I don't think they put up a fight. And I don't think we, for 100 years of, the way we did real estate, there was anything wrong with the way we do real estate. I think we can all agree there was nothing wrong with it, but there's a lot of greedy MFers that decided they could make a lot of money. And that's all it's about. It's just a money grab. It wasn't that anybody was doing anything wrong. It wasn't that we weren't doing business the way we should have done business. We were representing the clients to the best of our ability. It was very clear in the listing agreement what gets paid to the listing agent, what gets paid to the buyer's agent. I didn't see any problem with that. I don't think anybody sees any problem with that. But lawyers like their G5s. And this is all about getting a G5. It's nothing about us. So I was extremely disappointed in NAR settling. I thought we should have fought it. But it's not that big of a deal. It seems like it's a big deal. How's this going to work? How's it going to play out? But it really isn't that big of a deal. I'm going to show you why. Or I just turn this thing on. That would be it. All right. There we go. Okay. So the new way of how we're going to have listings and how we're going to represent buyers. So the listing agreement and the listing broker are all going to be working with the seller. The buyer's agent and the buyer broker is going to be with the buyer. And the only way they come together now is through the purchase contract. It used to be the listing contract named your price, and there's a unilateral offer of compensation in the MLS. The MLS was a promise to pay commission, and you were a sub-agent of the listing agent. That's gone now. That's not how business is going to be anymore. Now, the listing agent has their agreement with the seller that has nothing to do with you, and you have your agreement with the buyer that has nothing to do with the listing agent. So this can seem scary because as a buyer's agent, you're like, well, how am I going to get paid then? So that's the question we all want to get answered. Okay, so contractual relationships are stronger between the principals. That's one of the things that's going to come out of this. They're implementing a concession field in the MLS. That should happen, according to every MLS I talk to, before July, before this all comes out. So the publishing rules, this could cause a lot of bad behavior because there's agents that talk about, I'll just list my property for $2,100,000, 0.25. Like, as if that's your sneaky code for what commission I'm going to pay you. And like, there's all kinds of people that are like, we'll just have these codes, like these smoke signals. Like that doesn't have to, we don't have to do that. I mean, that's cute and everything, but we don't have to do that. There'll be concessions, and we'll be able to do it that way. So your agreements will have to have a buyer compensation in it. And then the concessions will be paid to the buyer, and the buyer will pay you. So you get how that works? There's going to be a concession for buyer's closing cost that the seller will offer. If the seller doesn't offer it, and this will be public, so it's a marketing discussion between listing agents and sellers. That, hey, do you want to market your property with no concessions to a buyer's agent? Because right now, every buyer, every serious buyer is going to be under contract with a buyer's agent. So you want to market your property without concessions and potentially eliminate all those buyers? Or do you want to market your property with concessions? So they're going to choose to market their property with concessions. In the beginning, you'll have those one-offs that won't, people that right now it's all in the news, oh, I don't have to pay buyer's agent. You don't have to pay your buyer's agent, but the buyer's agent has to get paid, and if you don't offer concessions, then you're going to eliminate buyers. So another thing that's changing is the buyer broker agreement. The compensation in there is the only compensation that the buyer's agent is going to get. So this means if a concession in the MLS is a certain percentage and your buyer broker agreement is a lesser percentage, you only get your buyer broker agreement percentage. The rest goes to the buyer because it's a concession to them. Because that pays for their closing costs. You're now their closing costs. That pays for buy downs, closing costs, etc. So it can't be open-ended. Your buyer-agent agreement can't be open-ended, meaning you can't say as much as that's in the MLS, and because that's a concession, that's not commissions. And yeah, MLSs may or may. Here they say may, but this is by T360. The last slide they said R. I'm going to go with R because I'm a positive person. I heard them say it, so I trust them. So concession is just a marketing piece. It's not binding. That's one thing that we have to get used to too. So concessions aren't going to be binding. Right now, it's a unilateral offer of compensation. It's a promise to pay through your membership in the MLS and CAR and NAR. That's not going to be the case anymore. Now it's marketing. Now it's I have a beautiful 5-bedroom home with a pool and a view and a buyer concession. That's marketing. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean you're going to get that. That has to be in the contract. It has to be in the contract. All these contracts are going to change, obviously. The listing agreement is going to change. Purchase agreement is going to change. We, at FirstTeam, if you're a FirstTeam agent here, we developed a new buyer broker agreement. We always had a FirstTeam buyer broker agreement. But with the help of Dave and Christian and Chase and Max Carr and some of our agents here, we got together and we wanted to make a very, very buyer-friendly, consumer-friendly buyer broker agreement. And it lists everything that you're going to do. I'm going to help you with your moving. I'm going to find you a lender. I'm going to walk your dog. I'm going to get you moving boxes. I'm going to, pay for cleaning. I'm going to do all this huge list of stuff. And on the back, it's going to say, I'm going to charge this percentage, and you allow me to negotiate that percentage with the listing agent or with the seller so that I can get paid. And that's going to be an agreement that you guys can use. If you're not part of FirstTeam, I recommend getting an agreement or asking your broker about getting an agreement. That's a buyer-friendly agreement that spells out what you're going to get paid, because you have to, and that tells your value, all the things that you're going to do. We also have a buyer presentation, and we're upgrading it to make it better, because these are now your buyer presentation is like your listing presentation, right? Now you're going to meet with buyers. Instead of just saying, I'll meet you over there at 123 Main Street at 3 o'clock and let you in, I'll unlock the lockbox for you, like how a lot of people used to do. That's not going to be the way we do business anymore, and that's a good thing. Really, why were we meeting strangers at houses? That's so bad. That's, we're professionals. We should have always been meeting the buyers at the office and going over our presentation and saying what our value is. So now we're going to have to do that, which is a good thing. Okay. So, what listing contracts could look like, they're working on it right now. There's a draft. I haven't seen the draft yet. I don't know if they're going to put concessions in the listing contract. My question is, okay, we have concessions. Now concessions are going to be the buyer's way to pay their agent. Where does that go? So there's two ways that this could happen. That the buyer concession will be in the listing contract. It'll say, you're going to pay the listing broker this percentage, and somewhere in that contract is going to say, and you're going to offer a buyer concession or not offer a buyer concession. If it doesn't, then we'll create a marketing addendum that basically says, here are all the things we're going to do to market, and here's the concessions you're going to offer to the buyer. So I think it'll most likely be the first way, but we have a backup plan in case it's not. Okay. So the gist of it is, I didn't want today all to be about the lawsuit. I wanted today to be about stepping up your game, about being the best you can be for your clients, about leveling up your professionalism, about making sure that you know your value and that you show your value. That's what I want today to be about. But I know this is important stuff, and I know everybody's nervous, but like I said, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I really don't. It was a money grab. It's not really going to change the way we do business. We're still going to have very professional listing agents. Our very professional listing agents are going to tell their sellers, you don't expect, did you pay your agent? Are you going to pay your agent and not have any concessions when you buy your next house? Like, let's be fair about this. Let's make a concession so you open it up to a wide pool of buyers. It's got to be public. The buyer will know, just looking online, whether or not there's going to be concessions to them. And that's going to make a difference to them. So I want this to be about our professionalism. So today I have 2 different panels and a keynote speaker. And so our first panel are a group of top agents that already have ideas in their head. And some of these agents I met with when I wanted to try and figure out, okay, how do we make sure that all of our agents are prepared? What kind of agreements should we have in place? What kind of presentations are you guys doing? So these guys are going to talk about how they run their business, how they run their teams, and how they're going to pivot and be better at what they do and how they're leveling up. And then I have Homes.com, who's our sponsor. I don't know where they went. But they're going to get, oh, there you go. Brian, AJ, is it AJ?
Brian and AJ. Yep.
They're going to give a short little spiel on what Homes.com is doing. And then I'm going to have a conversation with Christian Stubbs. He's a top team with FirstTeam, only been in the business 4 years, and is already at almost 150 million in volume, which is amazing. He's going to talk about, is it time to build a team now? Okay, all this stuff is going on, like, should I be building a team now? And then I have Jeff, where are you, Jeff? Jeff Osborne, who's going to be giving us some motivation, and he's going to talk to us about our mindset and how we can use this opportunity to really take it to the next level. So I wanted to call up our panel, and that's Dave Archuleta, Aaron Williamson, Alex Yu, and our moderator, Cyrus Maseni. Come on up.
What's up, guys? I can't put my water down there though, because I'm going to drop it. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be like this in the videos. How's everybody doing?
Good.
When Michelle and I were talking about this event, we're like, who we're going to get on stage to be able to talk, and we just figured, why don't we get the killers on stage to talk about what you guys think about everything that's going on. So I want to start with, like, before we even get into, like, how you guys built your business, what you guys do, like, I want to, like, go into that. How do we feel about the NAR? You guys are going to use that one mic, by the way, so you guys are going to have to figure out how to pass it, because I'm not sure. How do you feel? How do you feel? Yeah, exactly. How do you feel about everything going on? As team leads, right? Like, how do you guys feel?
I'm excited. I think it's going to make us better.
Why?
Because it's going to force us to step up our game. Our service is going to get better. It might weed out those agents that do one transaction a year. So I think it'll be a little bit harder to get in. It won't be as easy as they think. So I'm excited because it gives me more opportunity.
Yeah. Alex, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so for us, we've always known that a lot of the questions I get from other agents is, how do you go ahead and present this to a buyer? That's what they're afraid of, because we haven't worked, in that area before. But really what we do is we just want to explain that real estate is all it is, when you boil it down, is that game of contracts. There's clearly a contract between the listing agent, right, and the seller. The contract between the buyers and the seller, which is the purchase contract. The only thing that you're asking them for is basically there's a contract between the buyer's agent and the buyer. When you can present it that way, it's going to be fine. And that's why we're not really worried, but I get that question a lot.
Before I go to you, and I want to ask Alex something. So how are you going to present that contract to those people? You're just going to be like, hey, this is required now, you got to sign it, right? That's it?
Yeah, pretty much. We just send it a DocuSign.
Yeah,
or
don't
a
even
fax
explain it,
machine,
right?
and we're good.
All right, fax machine. Right? No, but how are you going to present that? Like, what's the scripting that you're using right now, or you're teaching your team to use?
So we just basically explained that, it's a game of contracts. That's how real estate is set up. And there has to be a contract that protects different parties. This is a natural part of the business. And not only this, in other states, if you go to Colorado, because I have a good friend in Colorado, they've always had this. So it's just us catching up. And you do want to get caught up, right?
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to keep going. No, I'm diving in with you, dude. So you're sitting down with that buyer presentation, and it's time to present that. What are you telling the buyer, though?
We're going through what we add as value. That's really what the key is. There is a truth, and that is if you don't add value, and the absolute value, price has always been a problem. That's what you've heard, if you've ever heard that. And we have to basically demonstrate exactly what we're going to do. There's a couple things that are going to affect agents going forward. There's obviously conditions in the market. They said that per Inman, 49% of agents did one transaction or less last year, which is a dramatic number. There's going to be changes in technology. When they moved online, when everything's been moved online, it's more competitive, and when we're basically having to buy back opportunities from these online portals, that's a change. And the last thing that you have to be aware of is that there's going to be court issues and regulations, just like the NAR stuff that we're working through. That's a natural thing, and it can put a lot of average agents out of business. But if you're in this room right now, obviously you're not average. So demonstrate your value, and your business will grow.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah.
That's great.
I think, how many of you guys have ever done a listing appointment? Exactly. We spend so much time and effort in putting into our listing appointments, but we don't put any time into our buyer appointments. So I think your buyer appointment needs to be 10 times better than your listing appointment. In your listing appointments, you showcase how much value you want to provide to that seller. On the buy side, we got to do that times 10 now. And every one of us knows what our value propositions that we want to give to a buyer. So you need to fine tune that, because everyone's going to say, I'll work hard for you and I'll fight for you. I'll door knock on every house and find you a home. But that's not going to cut it anymore. You need to find a value proposition that's unique to you, unique to the market, that's different than anyone else, because you're going to have to be able to be ready within minutes when someone says, hey, I'm looking for an agent to help me find a home. So you got to be able to go do that buyer appointment right then and be ready and showcase value like no other. So get your buyer agreements ready like you do with your listing appointments. And I promise you, you're going to be fine.
Love that. Pass it all the way down there. Aaron, how do you feel about everything going on?
I'm actually super excited about it, because when I got into real estate, one of the things that bothers me the most, and I've been doing this for 30 years, guys, one of the things that bothers me the most is when people look at realtors, they look at us like used car salesmen and ambulance chasing attorneys and, oh, you're a realtor. And so I've always thought, oh gosh, one of the things I've always wanted to do is like, how do we get realtors to step up their game? And it's like, I didn't even have to do it. It did it for us. Like, I see it as this huge gift. And if you look at it instead of an obstacle, but you look at it as an opportunity, just like you said, to step up your game, it's like we've got such this privilege and an opportunity to show your clients, like, why is it a privilege to work with you? Like, that's really what we want to do. It's like we want to be the Nordstrom. It's like all this, the internet came to town and the Zillow leads and this, all of a sudden it's like everybody's shopping at Walmart all of a sudden. And, no disrespect to Walmart shoppers, but, there's a difference. There's a difference in quality of what you get. And it's like, it's not about quantity. It's like, sometimes it's icky. You get these, like, all these leads and you've got to shuffle through all these gross people. And it's like, what if your clients, like, were wonderful and, like, your clients were up here and they looked at you up here and now you're a professional? You're not just one of the numbers. So that's what I'm excited about. It's like it's forcing us to step up our game.
I love that. I love the fact that like every single person up here is excited and stoked about it. You didn't hear like, oh, we're scared, we're not sure what's going to happen. These are some of the best agents in the industry that are sitting up here and in the company, and everybody's stoked about it. I'm excited about it because it gets rid of the hobbyists. I'm excited about it because it's going to make us show up as the professionals that we are. Right? And people, I also have been seeing recently, like, people saying, like, the buyers are the real losers in this situation. I think they're winning on this. Because what are we doing? Now, when was the last time we saw somebody focus on buyer presentations? The whole industry is doing it now. Right? We're going to be able to provide more value for our clients than ever before, which I'm freaking excited about. Speaking of value, you were talking about you got to provide more value to your clients, right, Dave? Yeah. Alex can hold the mic for you the whole time, or you can do it yourself.
You need a headset?
So what are you doing? What are you doing? Because we spoke the other day, and you have a couple different things that you're doing to be able to show your value, right? Because you've been providing value, but how are you showing your clients that you're providing that value?
Yeah, I think now we got to put it on paper, right? We always kind of know it in our heart and in our mind, so we know how to talk it, but now it's got to be on the paper. So we call it an exclusive offer. There's 6 things that we like to provide as our value prop. One is we call it VIP Buyer Club, and I say I work with 5 exclusive buyers at any given time. I don't take on any more because I want to give you the dedication and attention that you need to get your home, so they feel like a part of something. I have the House Hunter program where I say you have exclusive to the Archuleta team off-market listings, and also all the First Team agents listings, and then I set them up on a door knocking, letter campaign, and my database phone call of all the floor plans that they're looking for. I hit those homes in my farm. Love it or list it promise. If you don't love your house in 12 months, we'll sell it for free.
Wait, can you dive into that really quickly?
I would sell someone's house for free if they didn't like it in 12 months. And I know Alex does the same thing.
And yeah, you guys both are doing that, right? And I thought this was genius, so I want to dive into this because how many times have someone actually came back to you and been like, oh, I don't like my house, sell it?
It never happens.
Exactly. But it makes the client feel great, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, your value prop needs to speak to the fear of the buyer. The buyer, my fear of them, the top 3 is like they don't want to overpay, they don't want to buy a lemon, and they don't want to buy at the wrong time. So you got to speak to those fears with your value prop. So being able to say, hey, I'll sell it for you if you don't like it, speaks to one of those fears. And honestly, no one's ever going to say, sell my house, I hate it. And if they do, I'll get 3 listings out of that 1 listing because that's what I do.
I love it. Alex, you have a similar program, right?
Yeah, we also do Love It or Leave It instead of Love It or List It, because I've seen that show and it's a crazy show. So we call it Love It or Leave It, and the whole goal is that if you look at the statistics and people that bought homes during COVID, it's estimated that 70% of them have buyer's remorse. It's a big number, right? 70%. So they don't want that same fear. So it's really a risk reversal. So what we're doing is reversing the risk to let them know that if this happens and you have to sell your home during this period, that you don't have to worry about buying the wrong house because we got your back. So that's what the buyers are really excited about, that they have opportunity, that someone has taken advantage at one time. I didn't get a listing, but we got 2 buyers under contract as a result of that. Because if you control market share, you control mind share. So that's what you really want to focus on.
Yes, please.
So I want to talk about the listing side of that because I do something similar on the reverse. So maybe not a popular opinion, but I'll tell you that nobody's ever taken me up on it. So I will write right in my listing contract that they can cancel at any time prior to accepting an offer at no cost to them. And it takes all of the risk out of signing a contract with me. It doesn't matter how long the contract is. I don't care. I don't make it 6 months. I don't make it. It's whatever they're comfortable with because I've already taken the fear out of it by telling them that they can cancel at any time, and I'm the only one on the hook for anything.
So, are you going to adopt that on the buyer side? I'm just curious.
I would love to adopt that on the buyer side. I'm all about. I don't work just with any buyers. I won't. The people that know me just know I won't work with somebody just off the street. I will refer them out to somebody because I'm all about the relationships or building the relationships. So my buyers are actually people that already know me, like me, trust me, and I've never had a buyer's agreement signed ever in my life. But will I? Yeah, I have to now. And will my clients sign it? 100%, because I already know my clients are my clients forever. And my whole business has been off of referrals and off of repeat customers. Like my clients are generational clients. I'm selling now grandparents and aunts and uncles and kids.
How did you cultivate those relationships with those people?
One at a time, and it's really just loving on people and letting them know that they're important and that they're not just a number. I mean, that's what it comes down to, is that I'm the least salesy person I know, but I'm in sales. And to me, it's like selling the house is the byproduct of doing the right thing, and that will come naturally. So I don't know if you'll lead into that as of how I go about meeting people, but it's just.
I'm curious on what you do to love on those people. Are you just like calling them? Are you texting them? Are you just like see them once in a while? Like how do you show your love to those people that are in your database?
I'm very interactive with my clients. My friends are my clients are my friends. And so I will do things out of the ordinary that most people maybe are not comfortable doing, but I've always done it. And so it's the only thing that comes natural to me. So when I first got in this business, those of you that don't know me, I was told always that I did everything wrong. It's like, here's the book, start calling, right? Start with A and start calling. I'm like, I ain't calling anybody. Are you kidding me? And they're like, okay, then you go knock on 200 doors. I'm like, no, not going to do that either. So what I started doing was a first-class stamp and a handwritten note and start writing to the people that already knew me, and over time and building these relationships and inviting people into my home and tracing it back to, 25, 30 years ago, and I've got a 2-bedroom little condo, but I'm having 50 people over for a Christmas party. Those same 50 people still come today. The only difference is now there's 400 more, and it's like building these same relationships and keeping in contact with them has been my biggest, that's my takeaway, I guess, is cultivating these relationships but keeping in touch with them.
What I've really liked about learning about how you do your business is it truly is becoming the influencer in your community. Not so much online, but the people that they call you if they need to contact for somebody. They know you're the person to go to, and you've positioned yourself really well with that. So
they'll call me for every little thing, because they already know that I have somebody. I got a guy for everything that anybody needs. I got a guy.
I got
a girl.
What do you need? So I'm going to you, Alex. So Alex, you have a team, and it's a very successful team. And obviously you had no plan, you just started it and it just became successful, right?
That would be nice. So probably about a couple years ago, I started the team over.
I hired his wife, Julia, when she was a brand new agent. She came to me, she was working at HR and Target 9 to 5, and she was like, I want to get into real estate, I want to really make it happen, I have a plan. And for transitioning out of a full-time job into real estate, I hear that a lot. And most of the time it doesn't happen. But she was motivated. She picked a farm area with 3-story condos and would knock on the door, 3-story condo, like, why did you pick that farm area? She said, because nobody else is going to walk up and down 3 stories of condos. So she was a rock star. And then she introduced me to Dave. She said, I met this guy, Dave, and I really like him. And I was like, I kind of like him. I think he's cool. And then next thing you know, she's like, I'm going to marry Dave. And I was like, wow, okay. Went to their wedding. It was amazing. And then next thing you know, they have 5 kids. And next thing you know, I swear it happened like boom. And then she said, I think I want Dave to get into the business. And I was like, yes. And I was always trying to talk her into starting a team. Because together they were rock stars. I was like, start a team. And she was always like, no, Michelle, I don't want to start a team. I don't want to train agents, and I just want to do my business or anything like that. Dave came along to the picture, and he's like, we're going to start a team. And I was like, yes! I always get what I want in the long run. So they have been amazing. I mean, I can't even be happier for what they've done, because when they first moved into Rancho Mission Viejo, they were in was it a condo or a small house? Condo. Then they moved into a bigger house. Then they moved into it. So she always calls me, she's like, Michelle, we're gonna buy another house. Michelle, we're gonna buy another house. Now they're in the bigger house with the kids, and it's just their lives are amazing. And that's I love what I do. I love what I do because I get to change people's lives. Like, it's so freaking cool. And Dave is like the epitome of that. And I'm just super happy to have him on the team.
For business, because they're gonna know how to do that. And then the next 30 days is really about like figuring out how to negotiate, with agents, with buyers, and what have you. And then you go into listing certification. But what I'll tell you is that now the mindset for the team is that I want them to learn and I'm kind of a slow learner, but it did take me like 5 to 10 years to learn this stuff. And then I want to be able to teach them it in 120 days. And that's what we figured out on how to build, because if everything I can teach them in that period of time, 87% of agents fail in 2 years. You've heard that statistic. It's too high. But it's because the team model of yesterday is broken. But the team model of tomorrow is not about the agents coming on and fulfilling the goals of the team leader, but the team leader laying in the opportunities for the team to really grow. So it's going to be a two-way conversation. That's why when people are like, they say listing presentation. Your listing, it's not a presentation, it's a what?
It's a conversation.
Exactly. And that's how the new teams of tomorrow are going to work. I can bet money on it. So that's kind of how we're building.
I love that. And Dave, you going back to like that value, that thing, like when we start all of individually as individuals started our companies or our teams or whatever we have, right? Like, what's the first step to even getting into the business to be able to become a successful agent in this business, right? Like, what are you doing first? You get right back, you get into the business right away, and you're like, okay, now I've crushed it, I've done well, now I want to start a team. What did you look at first?
When I started the team, I had to realize there was 2 jobs. I still got to run my business the way I'm running it, and then I got to be a team lead and create systems for my team. I think that's the biggest mistake that people, when they start a team, they don't realize, and they have to redo it and rethink it. I know TF always talks about start a team is the wave of the future, but it's not if you're not that kind of person. You got to be able to teach people and be able to communicate it in a clear, concise way, or else they're never going to learn as you being their team lead. So you've got to be able to understand your giftings and know that you're a team lead, and you also have to run your business. So either have someone take over your business so you can be the team lead, because you're going to exhaust yourself trying to do both. I mean, it's exhausting, but I love it. It's rewarding for me. I feel like that's my sweet spot. I love helping the guys on my team. I love creating, my trainings for these guys on my team are kind of a little nutty sometimes because it's a lot. But I love doing that kind of stuff because I didn't have it when I started. I had my wife, and then she'd tell me, go figure it out. I got to figure it out. So I just learned by just always being an entrepreneur and like being in the music industry and just figuring it out, trying to get my band signed, trying to get a club started, trying to get bands booked. I figured out how to do it on my own, and it's the same thing with real estate. I came in with fresh eyes. My wife had her way of doing things, and I had my way. And I thought, hey, let's do this. Why not try it like this? And she's like, well, it always worked like this. And I'm like, but what is it? So it's kind of been like, you gotta love people in this business. So when I bring people onto my team, there's 4 values that they all have to match. And if they don't match these 4 values, I say, you know what, maybe you're not the right fit for my team. But this is what I hire on, and this is what I fire on.
What are those values?
So my first value is welcoming, curious, thoughtful. It's how we act. The kind of people that wave at strangers. That's how I want the guys on my team. Every open house, when you put signs out, when you're meeting people, I want you to let people feel welcomed into your environment. When you're setting up signs, waving at people, letting people smile back, to me that's the best. Second one is people work is greater than paperwork. That's how we serve. We want to serve our clients, the kind of people that take an afternoon to help a neighbor. Perfect example, I had a 55 plus client. She couldn't move. She had oxygen masks on. Her husband had dementia. Their house was a mess. So I said, you know what, Marilyn, you sit here. I'm going to call some people, and we're going to go to Home Depot, get some boxes, and we're going to pack your entire house, and you just tell me what I need to put in these boxes, and I'm going to fill it out for you. And I called 4 of my friends, and this was before my team, and they didn't hesitate to say, what time can I be there? And that's when I decided that's the kind of people I want on my team. So the third one is masters of forgetfulness. This one is how we think. You know, in our industry, it goes like this. And we can be pissed a lot when we don't get our offer accepted or we lose that listing. But be pissed about it for 3 minutes, pivot, adjust, and move on. The kind of people that can leave the past behind. And the fourth one is how we make an impact. 360 degrees of generosity. I want guys on my team that are going to be generous. Be generous with your clients. Be generous with the guys on the team. Meaning share your ideas. And be generous with the industry. Come to opportunities like this and share what's working. And you know, because we all started it from day one and we didn't have any help. So share, and it comes back to you tenfold.
My favorite part about that, and I have to say, I have anytime anybody comes onto my team, I ask them 3 questions. I have 4 traits. I call it lids. It's loyalty, integrity, drive, and service. They need to have that, or we don't even have a conversation. But what I like about those values, and as you're building your company, they're really who you are.
Yeah.
Right? And you've built your company based on your values and your people, and then you found the right people.
Yeah. You know what's cool about it is that anything I do now, I run it through that grid. If it doesn't match any one of those, it's an easy no.
I love that.
It makes my decision process so easy. And you know what? I even print those out now, and it's part of my listing appointment. And I've gotten so many listings now because I share those values of how I run my business. And that's what differentiated me from my competitor when I was going up against.
So if you had to give a piece of advice to be able to find out what, you know, someone's starting a team, someone's getting into the business, how do they figure out what those values are?
You run your own business. You're a business owner. You got to have a vision statement. You got to have core values. If you don't have those things, I don't know how you're going to keep sustaining and growing in our industry. Every business that's out there in America, in the world, has a vision. Everyone knows exactly where they're going. They all have values, and they know exactly what they're representing. So if you don't have those things, I would encourage you to sit down and figure it out. Where do I want to go in my business? What's it going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? What do I want to do? Do I want to pass it to my kids? Do I want to sell it? What do I want to do with it? And the core values, like, what do you stand for? What do you believe in? What do you want the people on your team to model and represent you? Because that's a huge thing going forward in our industry, because it's going to differentiate you from anyone else when you can say, this is what I stand for, this is what I believe in, and this is how I run my business. People are going to respect that, and they're going to honor you more for that.
I love that. Hey, Alex, do you have core values for your team?
Yes, it looks like I copied off most of your page. But you came up with good ones. Yeah, we do have 4 values. Do you want me to go into like what they are?
Yes, please.
So our first one is make it happen. That's the most important thing, because when someone hires you, you want to make sure that you're able to make it happen. The second one is to be resourceful and responsible. Sounds very simple, but it's a lot more difficult in real life. And then to have success with others, we want everyone inside the team to win. We also want, our clients and to ultimately win. We want to make sure that we are creating an impact greater than us. The causes that we continue to invest in, for me, are basically like family services, homelessness, and then also animal welfare. When I had no friends, I had a dog, so that's how that kind of came together. And then we have to have a mindset of abundance, because the best way to have a better today is you have to have a bigger tomorrow. And there's people that don't live like that. And that's what we want from everyone from the team, because if they can't do that, we run them through this grid if things are not going right, and sometimes they don't make it. And it used to honestly just sit on a wall, but it wasn't enforced. But if you have standards that are unknown or unmet, you don't have standards.
Love that. Yes, please.
So you guys realize that you are who you surround yourself with most. So this goes with not only your team members, but also your clients as well, and your friends. So if you look at it like, you are the sum of the 5 people that you give your most of your time with, but you're always out with these other clients as well. And I always look at it like this, like there's this imaginary line, right? And everything that's above the line is your peace and your sanity and your positivity and your abundance and your, your happiness. And it's all of these wonderful things that you want to always be around. Like what makes you fulfilled inside? Like what makes you happy is everything that's above this line. And then below this line is these things like scarcity and fear and, oh no, the lawsuit didn't go in our favor. We're all going to be doomed. We're all going to be out of this business. And all this negativity and this fear that just pulls you down. So if you surround yourself by people that are constantly pulling you down below that line, and that also goes for clients, like be really selective of who you surround yourself with. Because sometimes you've got to give somebody back. Say, I'm sorry, I'm not the right fit for you. I have no problem turning the client away in a listing conversation because I feel like they're going to suck the life out of me and suck the joy out of me. But the thing that I find that happens is that you'll go on to find 2 more, 3 more better clients that all of a sudden they're above the line and you're lifting each other up instead of pulling each other down.
100%. It's like a gas tank in a car, right? Like you got 80% gas because that's all your 80% positive energy. You're filling up the rest of the car with 20%. Like you're only going to operate on 80%. You can only go so far, right? And you fill that up with more and more negative energy, more and more negative energy. You're not going to have energy to go and get new business. Like, you're not going to be able to get there.
And you're not going to enjoy the business that you're in. So if you're not enjoying selling real estate, if you're not loving, like every single day, loving this business, it's like change the way you're doing it. Like start doing the things that bring you joy, and guess what? You're going to start surrounding yourself with people that actually enjoy being around you, and they want you to be their realtor. They want to sign that buyer's agreement. They want to sign that listing agreement because they want to be around you.
100%. I also I used to be a professional soccer player, and like from when I played soccer to like literally today, I hate going to the gym. But like I knew it was a necessity to be in the gym, right? Like it's the same thing in real estate. I think like consistency and discipline is what creates success over time, right? And sometimes I don't love every single thing that I do. I don't like door knocking. I don't like it. I never have. But the reality is I do it every day because I know that that's going to be the catalyst to my bigger goal, right? Of winning and having success in the life that I want to create, right? So, going into that, speaking of door knocking, by the way, coming back to Dave, he knew it. Dave, you had mentioned something earlier about waving to people, which I brought it up last time we talked, and I'm going to keep bringing it up. You wave it. Talk about your open house signs. Because you, by the way, if you don't know how Dave does his business, he's like the king of Rancho Mission Viejo. Say yes.
Yes.
And it's like if there's a listing in there, it's not Dave's, like they're crazy, I think. But how did you build that? Because you door knock, but when you put up your open house signs, I think you do something genius. By the way, like I think it's absolutely genius. Some people think it's crazy, but I think it's genius.
I put up all my signs. My coaches always said, "Why don't you pay somebody to do that?" Because I have to put up a lot. So I said, "No, I don't want to because I like to wave at people, and they like to wave back."
So why do you wave at people?
So I just notice when I see other agents putting up signs, they're in such a hurry. They're not focused on their surroundings. They just run in front of cars. People are honking at them, and they don't even say anything. And they have a groan on their face, and they're just not happy. So I'm like, I'm going to smile, because that's just who I am. So I smile at every single person that waves and drives by, and that's probably 200, 300 cars setting them up, and then 200 or 300 when I'm taking them down. Every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So, every weekend I probably wave at 1,000 people in my farm, and they always roll down their window, dang! Or I see them across the street, dang! So I just wave.
That's it. And they wave back.
And they
don't know you.
I was telling Cyrus the other day, like my neighbor moved into Rancho Mission Viejo from LA, and he's like, we wanted to find a new community where people were really nice and outgoing, and some guy in a jogging, all black, was running, and he waved at us twice. The first time we came, and the next time was at the inspection. We're like, this is the nicest neighborhood. And I was like, Tim, that was me. people remember it, and it's always fun to watch people smile and or the people that don't want to wave them. But it does help because it shows hey, I work hard, I go get it, and I'm doing it myself. So I think a lot of people respect that when I go to listing appointments and they say, we've seen you putting these signs up for over a year now, and we always decided that you're our guy when we decide to sell. So take it for what it is, but I still put my own signs up, and I probably always will. So
Love that. We talk about farming, and farming is really at the essence of farming is just making more friends, right? And you've completely mastered that. So I needed to make sure that we shared about your ways. Alex, we know Dave built his business a lot from door knocking and being in his farm. Aaron's built it off of relationships. How did you grow your business?
So for us, before I came into real estate, I actually was the REO manager for JP Morgan Chase. We acquired Washington Mutual, Bear Stearns, and I interacted with a lot of real estate agents. But what I'll tell you is that during that time, it was kind of like a money grab, where all these REO agents weren't doing the work that I thought they should be doing to represent the properties that the bank was giving them. So a lot of where our relationships really stepped in and where my business came from, especially early on, was through networking and volunteer organizations. It was honestly by luck. I was working with Habitat for Humanity, the Pomona Valley Regional Center that works with disabled kids, their families, to make sure they have access to resources, and I had no clients. So I was just going there consistently, volunteering, because I had nothing to do. And then they're like, Alex, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm in real estate. They're like, oh, I know a guy that needs to sell their house. And that's really where it started. And I continue to do that, and that's one of the reasons why today, we want to make sure we continue to give back. Because I realized that what I needed to do was continue making impact in those areas and do the same with my clients. And that continues to bring more and more opportunities. In our business, when I was a kid, one of the things, my dad was a chemist, he worked for Exxon, and there was the Exxon Valdez, if you remember, and it was a terrible oil spill. Animals and all these things were affected. But think of it like your business. All you are is you've got to start at a point, and then you're going to flow into a little bit more area, a little bit more area, a little bit more area. Because your business, you probably had one listing, and then another listing, and then it kind of just spilled over. And you don't remember when it is, but if you look at yourself on a map for all the homes you've closed, it's a huge grid. So for us, that's really what started my business. We continue to build relationship with business owners, and we want to support at the highest possible level and help our clients win.
I love that. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and talk about you guys had started your business in these ways, and you guys all lean into business in a different way. Similar, but different way. How do you guys deal with challenges when they come into your business? Yeah, we could start with Aaron. That's fine.
What kind of challenges are we talking about?
Any challenge. Look, the reality is every day we deal with some sort of BS, whether it's from a client, whether it's from a transaction, whether it's from something going on nationally, right? How are you dealing with those on a daily basis?
Well, first of all, you just have to look at it. It's what is an obstacle, right? Every obstacle is an opportunity in disguise. So it's all about perspective, first of all. How do you see your obstacle? I mean, I've probably overcome some of the biggest obstacles in the world, but I made it look easy because to me, what somebody else sees is oh my gosh, that would have completely destroyed me. I'm meh, my house burned down. So I didn't die. It's perspective. It's just every obstacle is just, I think it's just a way that you look at it and you see, okay, well, where can I go from here? Where can I build from here? How does this get better?
I love that. What about you, Alex?
I think what's hard is that some days are always going to be better than others, regardless if you're a real estate agent or you do something else. And for us, as a team, obviously last year's market definitely challenged us. It required us to go ahead and figure out what is the value we're going to add, how are we going to build a business going forward, and how we run a profitable business where everyone's getting what they want. But for me, and I'm sure Jeff is going to talk about this later, it's about mindset. There's some days where you run around and you're I have to do this. But if you can replace have with I get to, it changes, like, I have to put out signs. No, you want to put out signs, right? So to have that perspective shift, if you're able to catch when you're doing that, it will change, like, the quality of your day. And honestly, it'll change the quality of your business.
Love that. What about you, Dave?
I think that's why having a vision is important, because you always have something to fall back on when it does get tough, right? You have your why. I got 5 kids. I want to support them, take care of them. That's a big part of my why. I want to help people that need help. That's a big part of my why. I think in those difficult circumstances, I mean, as far as my business, like I'm always optimistic. I'm always like, I'm going to make a way. I'm going to figure it out. But I think there's those difficult circumstances with clients that sometimes we should talk about, you know, like, or the clients that are outside the clients. Like, I'm just reminded of the story, and I totally forgot about it until the seller told me about it yesterday. I was doing drone shots, and the neighbor came out, and my drone guy called me, and I was on vacation, like driving on the toll road, headed up to the desert, and I'm like 30 minutes away at least. Some guy's swearing at me, and he's shooting down, trying to shoot my drone down, and he's got his hose out, and I was like, what? Is this real? And I just called the cops, and so I'll turn around, I'll be right there. And I drive back, there's like 4 cop cars, and my drone guy is like sitting on the ground, and I'm like, what are you doing? What's going on? And then this guy was just mad that he was, and you know, he's a lawyer, and it's during COVID, so he's online trying to do a session, and there's this drone flying over, and he thought maybe it was the other side trying to take shots of him or something, so he was just yelling at me. So sometimes with clients, you gotta deal with them with empathy, right? Think about when you gotta let air out of a balloon, you gotta let it all out. Or then if you just let them stop and you stop it, there's still more air that they gotta get out. So just let it all out, take it. I'm so sorry that inconvenience you did. And I didn't mean to interrupt your day. We'll figure it out. And I showed them the photos. We didn't take any photos of your house. Here it is, here's your proof. And I'm so sorry. And then I went straight to my car, and I noticed that in his house he had all this Yankee stuff in his hallway, and Roger Clemens on the wall. So I'm on my phone trying to find someone in new, like, baseball era. I wanted to buy something of the New York Yankees or Roger Clemens, so I'm calling all these baseball stores in New York, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I was like, hold on, I've got an idea. I found a Roger Clemens Game 4 of the World Series ball that he pitched, that he signed, and I had it overnighted to this guy, and I had a custom-made thing to put on his desk, and I set a letter on it, and I said, David, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I hope it brings a smile to your face. Thanks for sharing with me, David Archuleta. And he called me after that, he's like, I cannot believe that you knew that Roger Clemens was my favorite player. And I cannot believe that you found this ball. And he said, I want you to know I put it on my desk, and it's going to stay there. And you just won a new client. So, yeah. So, the awesome thing is that guy wants to buy investments, which I've been helping him. He eventually wants to sell his house. And I just talked to him yesterday. I was driving down the street. He's like, Dave. You know? So, like, those guys that you think are your biggest enemies, if you just let them talk a little bit and listen and have empathy for where they're at, you don't know what their situation is. Listen and approach it in a custom, unique way. I'm not saying go buy baseballs for everyone in the world, but find unique ways to speak to their hearts. And it'll be the most memorable experience for them, and they'll never forget it. He's referred me to so many clients.
I love that. I love that.
Sorry, sidetrack.
No. You know, my favorite part about that story is that you didn't do that based on, oh, if I do this, I'm going to get a client.
Exactly.
My favorite part about that story is you did that because this business is about relationships.
Exactly.
And you knew that, hey, look, I want to make sure that relationship's intact because we never know what might come from that.
Yeah.
Which is just freaking amazing. So, and then it ended up being a bunch of business. So,
and that's why
a great day.
I didn't write anything in the card to like, hit me up your own stuff. It was like, literally just, I know this doesn't fix anything, but I hope it brings a smile to your face. And it's just...
I love that. I love that. I have one more question for each of you. Dave doesn't want to be in the hot seat. The question is if you were restarting your business today or starting your business, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
So I would say that the biggest thing is figure out what's important to you. Like, what are your personal core values and what is your mission and vision? Because you're always going to hit a target if you don't have one, right? Because you don't really have any goals for yourself. And I didn't have any early on. Well, I did have one, and that was to, pay the rent, right? But at some point, that's going to shift. You're going to figure out what's actually important to you, why you're actually in this business. Because I've thought about it a lot. There's a lot of easier ways for me to make money. But every day I keep coming back to it because I know that it's not about money. It's basically what kind of impact I can make with the agents and in those areas that we serve. What kind of impact can I make in the community? And what can we give back? To rise up, you have to give it all away. And that's what we got to continue to do. So that's what I would do, personally.
When it comes to your core value or your mission statement or whatever it is, I've always said, we try to exceed expectations. But, when it comes down to our why, and my husband and I had this conversation the other night, it's like our why is you. Like, we never make it about ourselves. It's always about someone else. And as soon as you start putting somebody else's values above your own, it's like the rest of it just takes care of itself. It's, selling real estate is just the byproduct of doing the right thing. And always putting somebody else ahead of you seems to just come back. And it's intentional. It is very intentional, but it comes naturally because we're so used to doing it in a way that it makes us feel good. I just want to see somebody else win. I want to see them get the highest price. I want to see them get the best price they could for that property, or I want to see them. It's just like we're all in it together, and being authentic, not just to them but to ourselves, and really making their needs above our own just wins every time.
Okay, so the data shows that a lifelong client will pay you $150,000 in revenue in your lifetime of your business. So if I was to start from day one, I would look at companies that are amazing at customer service. Think about Disney. How many times have you gone to Disney? It just feels good when you walk in, feels good when you leave. Like, the whole experience is like life-changing, right? The Ritz-Carlton has amazing service. Everywhere you go, it's like everything's done. You don't have to ask because it's already been given to you. So find companies like that do things really well and try to figure out how to incorporate that into your business. That's what I'm really focusing on. How can I excel in my client service? I already know what my core values are, my vision of where I'm going, but how can I make these things better? So that's kind of what I've been doing lately, is just studying those companies and see how can I make that real estate related and treat people different than everyone else to have that same kind of experience that's memorable, that people just feel good. Because honestly, if I do a good job with someone, they're going to come back to me again. They're going to refer me again. And then out of those referrals are going to come more referrals. And I don't know, to me, that's what you should be doing.
I love that. I have a piece of advice. I would learn to fall in love with the process. Like early on, when I got into the business, I just knew there's always someone out there getting better than you by working harder than you. And I just want to outwork every single person in the room, every single day. And so for me, it was learning to fall in love with the process, and then understanding that I'm a big believer in ego is the devil, and like, how do we ground ourselves on a daily basis to be able to grow as individuals? And I truly believe that's gratitude. I think gratitude on a daily basis, in the morning, in the evening, grateful for everything I have and everything I don't have, because everything we have and we don't have is everything we actually have, right? So if I was starting, I'd tell myself the same thing: is just fall in love with the process, fall in love with the process, fall in love with the process, because everything works if you put in the work. Everything works if you put in the work. I appreciate you guys so much for being out here. Thank you so much.
I hired his wife, Julia, when she was a brand new agent. She came to me She was working at HR and Target 9 to 5, and she was like, I want to get into real estate. I want to really make it happen. I have a plan. And for transitioning out of a full-time job into real estate, I hear that a lot. And most of the time it doesn't happen. But she was motivated. She picked a farm area with 3-story condos and would knock on the door of 3-story condos. I'm like, why did you pick that farm area? And she said, because nobody else is going to walk up and down 3 stories of condos. So she was a rock star. And then she introduced me to Dave. She said, I met this guy, Dave, and I really like him. And I was like, I kind of like him. I think he's cool. And then next thing you know, she's like, I'm going to marry Dave. And I was like, wow, okay. Went to their wedding. It was amazing. And then next thing you know, they have 5 kids. Next thing you know, I swear it happened like boom. And then she said, I think I want Dave to get into the business. And I was like, yes. And I was always trying to talk her into starting a team. Because together they were rock stars. I was like, start a team, start a team. And she was always like, no, Michelle, I don't want to start a team. I don't want to train agents, and I just want to do my business or anything like that. Dave came along to the picture, and he's like, we're going to start a team. And I was like, yes! Yes! I always get what I want in the long run. So they have been amazing. I mean, I can't even be happier for what they've done, because when they first moved into Rancho Mission Viejo, they were in a condo. Was it a condo or a small house? Condo. Then they moved into a bigger house. Then they moved into, so she always calls me, she's like, Michelle, we're going to buy another house. Michelle, we're going to buy another house. Now they're in the bigger house with the kids, and it's just their lives are amazing. And that's I love what I do. I love what I do because I get to change people's lives. Like, it's so freaking cool. And Dave is like the epitome of that, and I'm just super happy to have him on the team. Is here. I wish Cam was still here because he'd be happy that they contributed to all this. I get a raise because of that. Your slides, yours already set up?
Yeah. We're going to plug in.
That was before us. That was some awesome content. I think whether you're in real estate or not, that was some really valuable information that was shared. So thanks, guys. But for myself, I'm been with the organization almost 20 years now. We've been successfully operating marketplaces for almost 4 decades. Some of you guys might recognize some of the brands that you see on the screen here, some of the different logos that roll up to CoStar Group, the parent organization. For me, this is very similar to when we acquired Apartments.com. We went out and got a fantastic URL with Homes.com, and we ran focus groups to understand, what did the industry need? What were some of the frustrations that the industry had with the websites and the residential portals that were out there, with Zillow, with Realtor, some of the other websites. And, we took that
As a listing agent, you don't get the leads anymore. You're saying a low man on the total. That's why I don't like you. It used to be that you always did.
and this is pretty familiar to you guys. So what we did is we
Teams are evolving. And I think that's one thing we're going to talk about is the new way teams are evolving. And it's different than the old way. And I think Alex said that. Like, there's a new way. And we need to make sure that we're supporting the new way. And I wouldn't know about the new way if it wasn't for Alex, and if it wasn't for Christian, if it wasn't for Dave and Chase, and like a lot of people in this room that really share. So I think we all want to know, why in the world did you start a team?
Great question. So I got into the business in the first place with business in mind. I don't think I ever imagined myself as like the #1 agent in California or anything like that. I really got into real estate for the business side, and I didn't know what that meant at the time. Like when we met, I wasn't thinking I'm going to grow a team. I didn't even know what that meant. But watching early on in the business, this is actually a fun story. So I started in the Mission Viejo office, and I was looking around and I'm like, okay, can I just interview all the top agents? And I did, and I don't remember who they were. I wish they did. I know Valerie Borg was one of them. She's here. But the, oh, you are. she's the one that convinced me to quit my job and start in real estate, along with Michelle. So fast forwarding in the interviews, I talked to every agent. It was like, where'd all your business come from? And the answer was past clients and referrals. Okay, I can't do that. I'm premium. What did you do where'd all your deals come from? And it was past clients and referrals over and over and over and over again, with the occasional farming. I'm like, okay, I'm brand new. I can't do any of that. So what I realized in asking all of these really successful agents where all their business came from was just do a lot of deals, do a really good job for your clients, build a past client database that loves you, and that's how you have a successful career, for sure. Like, that was what everybody had in common. And so that was what I did personally, right off the bat, tried to do. And what I realized kind of going my first maybe 6 months to a year in the business is that there was kind of a lacking point for new agents to the business and marketing. I think marketing for real estate agents has been done the same way for a really, really long time. And I just saw an opportunity. So that was kind of the direction we went with the team. And in looking, it was like, do I want to start a brokerage and compete with FirstTeam? No. Caldwell Banker, Compass, all these other companies. Do I want to compete with that? No, that's not what I want to do. And then I learned about the team model, where you can invest a lot more time into the agents than a traditional brokerage has with hundreds or thousands of agents. So that's why we chose the team model.
And it's much more profitable than the brokerage.
That helps.
So when did you learn that, hey, these other agents getting into the business need direction, they need training, and my model's attractive to them? Like, how did you learn that? When did you learn it? And how did you capitalize on it?
I think one of the biggest things that I could say is being in rooms like these. We've been in Tom Ferry for a very long time, tried a lot of different coaching environments, but really it's just being around other people that are where you want to be, right? And I think probably the best answer to why the team is, I went to a Tom Ferry conference, which I thought was nonsense at first. And I went and I saw people that had businesses that I didn't even know were possible in real estate. And I was like, you know what, that's what I want. And listening to 10 different people who were all really successful in 10 totally different businesses, I just found the one that I felt was something that I could relate to the most, but also that I felt was the best next thing for agents in the future as well too. So what is it that I saw that agents needed? This business is hard. Like, you talk to a brand new agent, like, how are you successful? And they could interview 20 different people in here and get 20 different answers. That's the hard part. So what I've always tried to do is just, let's make this as simple as possible. I got a whole row of our agents, and they hear me say over and over and over, it's like, let's make this like for a third grader, right? Let's just try to make the process as simple as possible so that we can follow it. And that's always been super helpful for me, and it just works.
So the one thing I always appreciated about you is like how systematized your team is. Like, you have your systems, you have strategy, you have high accountability. Is that something that you just learned? You're like, or are you just like a super system type of person, or did you become that way when you saw the need for it?
Became that way, for sure. I was not like that when I started in the business. I mean, before I got into real estate, I was in the dealership business, and my CRM, for those of us that actually use one, was a notebook. And it was, the left side was one contact, the right side was another, and I kept my CRM until it was full, and then I threw it away and moved on. And that was what I learned. So no, I wasn't always super systematized, but I learned it because it was necessary, right? And I always try to look at what does the consumer really want, and try to craft what do I think would be best for us, our agents, and our team, based on what is going to be best for the consumer. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's all about. If you're able to give a better service to all of your consumers, then you're probably going to do better that way. So having the systems in place, the short answer is really like, we have all the systems in place of the things that a good salesperson should do anyway, right? And I think every salesperson probably should use a CRM, right? They should be up to date on their follow-up, right? So we just kind of have those things, as we say all the time, is like how we do business.
So tell us a little bit, because I think the agents here like love specifics when we get into like exactly what your systems are. So tell us about like, your lead generation, how that falls into lead follow-up, and then do you do a round robin, and like specifically, what tech do you use to do those?
Yeah, so from a tech standpoint, we've used Follow Up Boss for a long time. We live inside of Follow Up Boss. So that's our CRM, that's where everything kind of lives. That's where we make our phone calls from, our text, emails, everything goes through Follow Up Boss, and that's how we keep track of everything. So lead generation, I mean, we do, if you're asking on an individual level, when I started, it was open houses. It was every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, doing as long of open houses as I possibly could. And for when we got into online lead generation, which is something we're huge with now, is it got for me to a point when I was still, pretty much solo, was I had too many people that I met from open houses, and I couldn't do open houses anymore because they wanted to see houses all weekend. So I was like, shoot, my lead gen's gone. And that's when we really fell into buying leads. And we started with Zillow, done a lot of different things. We're a Zillow Flex team, so that's a huge percentage of our business. But you can do that with a lot of different things, right? So everything goes, wherever leads are coming from, whether it's door knocking, open houses, whatever it is, everything goes into Follow Up Boss. And then we have, over the last 4 years, really just built as simple as possible, trying to have a system where our agents know who they need to call, when they need to call them, and they can see if they're behind, if they're on schedule, or whatever it is, to where it's not like you're not picking up your phone figuring out, like, who do I need to call today? And when you take that away, and it's just, hey, it's right in front of your face, make the calls. We all know that's, calls, text, emails. It's really about all having conversations, right? So if who you need to be having conversations with is right in front of you and you're not having to think about it and reinvent the wheel, it just makes your life easier. So from a tech standpoint, we use Follow Up Boss for the CRM. That's really most of it. And then from there, it's really just our website that we send properties through. We use Sierra Interactive for that. We've used YLopo in the past. I think Real Scout's fantastic, which FirstTeam offers. So there's a lot of different options. It's a lot less of, I think, what tech to use for that standpoint and more of just using what you have.
So when you have your agents, they're in their Follow-Up Boss every day, they know what calls they need to make, it's organized, and they know who they need to talk to, and you're not in open houses anymore. What are you doing on a daily basis?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to have really grown the team to a point where I've been able to step out of production for the most part. So I'm not selling on a day-to-day basis anymore, and my real day is running a business. So I was curious, almost by show of hands, who in here is starting a team or thinking about maybe should I start a team? I'm curious from a general standpoint. 2 people? Okay. From a starting a team perspective, and so what I wish somebody would have looked at me and said, it's like, hey, do you realize, like Dave said, do you want to start another business? Right? Because your production's one business, but a team it's very different. And so one of the things that I do on a daily basis is things that, like sales managing, right? Our pipeline, all of our agents have probably more leads than we can handle, which is good and a bad problem. So that's part of it. It is the leadership side of it. So I think everybody on the panel earlier talked that vision's huge. You guys probably get sick of me talking about vision. We're talking about it on Wednesday again, right? But I think that if you don't know which direction you're going, I think you're just going to be walking in circles. So knowing what the vision is incredibly important, and I probably spend about a quarter to a third of my week making sure that the business is going in that same direction. And then from there, it's obviously agent attraction, right? It's making sure that the marketplace knows what we're doing, knows what we're offering, having conversations, growing a company, having conversations with agents, just like I would be if I was selling with buyers and sellers.
So when you're recruiting and you're attracting and you're hiring agents, what type of agent are you looking for?
I always say, to make it as simple as possible, there's the core values and everything that everybody touched on. That part for sure is important for us as well too, and they said a lot of the same things that I would say anyway. So I'll skip past that, but the 2 things that, like, for our team that we look for is, number 1 is an agent who's willing to follow a process that we just know works, right? So willing to follow our proven process. And number 2 is somebody who's willing to put in the work. There's a saying we've all heard is you can lead a horse to water, can't make it drink. You can have all the fancy tools, you can have all the tech in the world, you can have all the whatever, and at the end of the day, the agent has to make the decision if they want to put in the work. I mean, that's it at the end of the day. And that's for solo agent, team leader, whatever you are, whatever business you're in. If somebody's not willing to put in the work, whatever you have doesn't matter.
Yeah, I always feel like that too with me. Like, I'm just a talent finder. I'm not somebody who goes out and makes people successful. Like, I didn't make anybody here successful, but I found the talent that I knew would be successful.
Right.
So I think
and I've heard a quote as well too. It's right along those lines. Is you can't make anybody productive, right? From a team perspective, we talk about productivity all the time. I can't do anything that's going to make Jamie make an extra 100 calls today. She's probably going to make 100 when she leaves here. But our job as leaders is to make an environment that makes people want to be productive. And I think that's something that we've done very well, is we've created a culture and an organization where, we celebrate doing the work. And in a business where it's really easy to celebrate the big paycheck or the listing, the sign in the yard, whatever, nobody celebrates making the calls, having conversations, going on appointments, which is where really all of the money's made.
So why operate a brokerage within a brokerage? Like, why did you decide, I'm not just going to start my own brokerage, but I'm going to stick with Michele? I know you love me and everything. That's probably why. But.
No, one of the major reasons is focus. Right? We talk about vision. Nowhere on my vision is #1 brokerage in California or growing a brokerage. That's not anywhere on my vision. And when we look at it, it's like, would opening a brokerage be the right thing to do? It's like, well, how much distraction would that bring? Like, how much of my energy would I have to put over here to do that versus just keep doing what we do best? And I think that's really the answer. Is it's just not the vision to do that. So leveraging everything that we have with FirstTeam and getting inside of rooms like this and talking to other people that are doing those things, I just think that's the reason I think teams within brokerages is the future. I think that you're always going to have solo agents that are very successful, and I think you're going to have, well, even with the lawsuit and everything going on, I think there's going to be already a huge divide between an agent that maybe does a deal a year by accident and the top producers. I think that divide is just going to get even bigger. And I think teams are going to be a huge place for that agent that doesn't want to work 100 hours a week. I don't know. I think everybody in here, I know Dave, I've talked to you about it. I was working 100 hours a week, 80 hours a week forever. And if you don't do that, I don't know how you could be really successful right off the bat in this business. And not everybody wants to do that, and that's fine. So that's the reason why, teamerage within the brokerage is really the route we went. Mostly focused, but also I think that is the next wave of what's going to be the most beneficial for the agents and the consumer.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'm very optimistic about the teamerage model, and I think that we, as brokers and even as office managers, when we have an office and we have 150, 200 agents in an office, it's hard to get that personal attention, that one-on-one coaching, the things that you need when you're a brand new agent, especially. And I feel like teams really offer that, higher accountability. I know you are really good at accountability, and you're kind of like, if you're not going to follow my system, you're not going to work here anymore. And I think we don't always, do that in a manager office setting. So do you fire people? I'm pretty sure you do, because I think I've seen them.
Yeah, we do. And our agents usually love when somebody actually gets fired, but most of the time, I'll hear in the office, like, I knew they weren't going to make it. But I think the reality is, like I said earlier, is that we try really hard to create that culture of doing the work, right? We celebrate that. So by making the environment where we do celebrate productivity, if someone's just not doing anything, they're feeling a little bit lonely on the outside versus everybody else is doing everything that we know already works and doing the work, right? So usually an agent's able to make their own decision and say, hey, I joined another brokerage, or I'm joining a regular office or whatever, and that's totally fine. There's so many different business models out there that I'm not going to be the right fit for every agent, that's for sure, and that's also by design, right? And you know better than most is we're really picky. We have a lot of people interested in joining our team, and we don't say yes to everybody, and I think that's something that
our agents certainly appreciate is I don't want 2 million agents and only the top 10% work. That's just not what we want.
Awesome. I'm going to open it up for questions in a couple minutes, but I wanted to ask one last question. What about these changes in the buyer broker and the NAR lawsuit? How's your team going to deal with that?
Yeah, I love it. And we've talked about it a lot. And we've been working on this for the last 18 months. And I mentioned Tom Ferry earlier. I don't think I'll give Tom Ferry credit for sure, but like being in rooms where people are talking about things that most people aren't talking about, I think is extremely important, right? This is one of those rooms. And I was listening to a guy that's certainly knows more about what's going on in the industry than I do. And I'm like, maybe I should listen to this guy. So we just said, well, what if this were to happen? What would it look like? And what do I think we would need to change if this were to happen? So we really have tried making those changes over the last 18 months or so. And the reality was, like the panel said earlier, treating your buyers just like their listings, right? I think a lot of times agents will just not put in the effort like you would with a listing with buyers and just kind of hope that that person actually transacts with you. So we say all the time on our team, buyer strategy sessions or buyers consultations is huge in our business. And I'm extremely excited for this because it takes the buyer side and makes it an uneven playing field, where listings aren't an even playing field, right? It's not like you can choose, Dave or whoever else in here and you're going to get the same thing. Like, you're not with a listing. And I think consumers are going to realize that that's always been true on the buy side. They just haven't treated it that way. So it's going to give the opportunity for buyer's agents that have a rock star presentation, and they're going to get buyer agreements signed probably at higher fees and get it signed more often, just like some listing agents get higher fees more often. And I think that's what I'm most excited about is it takes away the even playing field, and it also requires everybody else to do business correctly, right? Like you said earlier, you shouldn't be just going out with strangers. You should do consultations, get commitments from people to work with you, and everybody should understand what that relationship looks like.
Awesome. So what questions do we have from the audience on building a team? I know that a few of you in here are interested, and what questions do you have about how to do that from Christian? Because he is the master at doing it in a very strategic, very functional way. So go ahead. Yeah.
When do you know you're ready to start a team?
Great question. I'll go back to vision. I think that's the number one thing, is if you are crystal clear on what your vision is, and that includes a team, then I think it's probably sooner than later. But it's really deciding that you are starting another business. I assume you're in production, so it is saying, am I going to keep doing everything that I'm already doing on a production basis and add building a team? Or a lot of agents, and I don't personally know you yet, but are in a position where maybe that means hiring somebody to build a business for you, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. Being a producing agent is by far the most profitable thing you can do. Starting a team is less profitable than being solo, and starting a brokerage, as Michelle knows, is the least profitable thing.
I just want to be poor.
But I don't know if that answers your question, but I think if you feel like you can either take on the additional responsibilities of starting a new business or hire somebody to do a lot of those things, if that aligns with your vision, then I think it's probably sooner than later.
Chip.
Yes, in starting your team at the very beginning, when you got your first person.
Jamie.
Oh, it was your first. So what was that? Oh, where's Jamie? Let me see. Hey, all right. So kind of what was that like, if you get your first person in, you got your systems in place?
Yeah, no systems. I was not a systems person, right? I wasn't joking either. I mean, to be honest, it was when you do business, and you probably, both of you guys probably already feel this, I'd imagine, is you do business a certain way, which is why you're successful with consumers. Other agents see that. So realistically, like Jamie, we ran into each other everywhere. We were brand new agents at the same time. We ran into each other at RASS 100 times. And the reality was, we were just doing things different than most people, and then I think better than a lot of agents what they were seeing out there. And I think the first 6 agents we had join the team was quite literally by accident. And it was like, hey, can we join what you're doing? It was like, sure. Michelle, what does a team agreement look like? What paperwork do we need? It was like, they were already on the team, that there was no team, there's no paperwork, there's no systems, and we really built it around that. And I did that while in production too for both of you. So it doesn't have to start perfect, right? If I was waiting to have everything dialed in before I started the team, I still wouldn't have started the team. And I feel like we're pretty well organized in comparison to most teams, but I mean, you can ask them. It's like, there's all kinds of things that are like, oh my gosh, we gotta figure this thing out right away.
And I think also, like, a lot of it's the who. You know, like, Jamie's amazing. You know, I know her. And I think that, you know, the one thing that I see people who want to start teams do mistakenly all the time is they just hire anybody. And we do that too, as like brokers and managers. We're like, got a pulse, real estate license, you're hired. And it's like, you know.
And a credit card.
Yeah. Press hard, 3 copies. So we really need to, you know, be a little bit pickier. And I know that's hard because you're so excited. Chip, I know how excited you are to start your team. And like, but you just, you know, be a little picky. And sometimes you don't, it's hard to tell when you're a talent manager. A lot of times it is hard to tell. Like, you don't necessarily know. But you probably know who not to hire. So don't do that.
Yeah, and I'll say as well, so you mentioned standards earlier. You can have the best standards in the whole business, and if you don't enforce them, you don't have standards, right? And I think that's a lot. I've heard it. We did this for a long time, and once we made standards and enforced them, it made it very clear. Like, this is just this. They hear it all the time. This is how we do business, and if you're not willing to do that, that's totally fine. You can go join some other team, and that's okay. And if we're doing enough of the right things, if you're doing enough of the right things with your teams when you start, more people are going to join your team and stay and be happy and tell other people to join than the ones that leave. And if you're doing something wrong and everybody leaves, probably doing something wrong. And you figure it out and grow from there.
Dieter.
Can you describe a workable compensation model?
Like our compensation plan for our agents? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. And we're super transparent with all things numbers. So our entire compensation plan's on our website for everybody to see. So we start brand new agents at a 40% split. They get partnered up with a mentor who makes an additional 10%. And then we have, with our team, we have 2 different types of deals. We have team deals if we generate it. There's lower splits than if they generate their own business. So our self-generated splits go from 60% up to 80%, depending on their lifetime volume. Right? The more experienced, obviously, the higher splits. And on team business, it is really kind of depends on where the lead comes from, to be honest. But it's a 50% on buyers and 45% on listings. That's our whole comp model. Yeah, I'd be happy to share that too.
Jacob.
In the spirit of being picky versus not, how long do you give an agent to show if you weren't picky enough with them, and do you share with them that time horizon when you hire them up front?
That's probably something that, again, not being perfect, that's probably something that I have to implement as this is the actual timeline or a standard. Maybe like a probation period or something. I'm open to ideas. But I don't have this is it. There's a few things in our business that are like my judgment call, but that's definitely one of them. Is like, okay, if this person doesn't fit, we talked about core values earlier. For us, one of the major reasons why that's important is if there's any friction with somebody, and we go through the core values and how aligned is this person with their core values, and if they're not aligned with them, that makes it a lot easier, right? So I think that's one of the reasons why having core values is important. But again, if you don't enforce them, you don't enforce them, right? So as far as, I think you kind of have to figure out on your team model, right? If you guys are starting teams, you would have to figure out what your tolerance is and for your model, and then enforce it. And you're gonna screw it up at first. You're gonna have to reset it and everything. But no, that's not something we have very well. But I will say, again, because of that culture that we've built with it, usually within the first 90 days of somebody being on our team, they have a pretty good idea if they enjoy being on the team or not. And, you know, if we say, hey, this is what we expect, and someone's constantly down here, you know, obviously it's not a good fit.
So going forward in 2024, I know you have some big goals, so you want to tell what your goals are for 2024 and then even what your goals are going forward after that.
Yeah, I think one thing that I am super proud of is we have been in a positive growth momentum through this entire market. A huge part of that has been obviously the work that the agents are putting in. If I'm not in production, I'm certainly not selling the houses. It's all the agents doing the work, and I think the standards was a huge part of that. Is I know when the market got harder, with some of our standards, a lot of agents were like, hey, it's harder to hit the standards. I'm like, I know. It's going to be harder for a long time, and we're going to either get used to it, and we're going to adapt to the new market, or we're not. And that's one thing where I'm always super transparent with our agents with stuff like that, and I think that's made a huge difference as well too. Is just again, sticking to those standards is huge. And so for the vision for the future is continuing that year-over-year growth. This year, the goal is 210 million. With about 200 units, we're on pace to do that this year. We finished off fourth. I think you doubled my numbers when you made the introduction earlier.
What did I say?
I think you said 150. We're at like 70-something, 75 or so far this year.
Oh no, I meant 12 months.
Okay.
Yeah, I always do everything in 12 months.
So yeah, the goal for this year is 200 million, 200 units. And then probably next year is going to be very close to doubling that, probably in the 300 or 400 million mark.
Awesome. He's a Founders Award winner this year after being in the business less than 5 years. So congratulations to Christian. All right, that's amazing. I'd love to hear from our rock stars.
I decided to humble myself and be up here. You got to hear from incredible people like Dave, waving at everybody. That's my type of neighbor. I'm going to get a tracksuit and just start waving at everybody in my neighborhood. You got to hear from Alex, who dropped some amazing wisdom, and I love hearing that. And Erin, my homegirl, who dropped some amazing, incredible wisdom as well. And you got to hear from Christian, who's just killing it and crushing it in that industry. And so I know there's two things that I want to get the elephant out of the room, okay? You're probably asking yourself, who is this amazing chocolate man up there? I'm not Denzel Washington. I know some of y'all thought it was Denzel, but it's not me. And the second thing you're probably wondering is, why is my suit so tight? I bought my son's suit today. That's the reason why I'm flooding on my ankles. But I figured I got a scene buff. Chip is in the room. And so, I wanted to share with you guys something as we begin to talk about all the changes that are happening right now. And before you see the guy in the suit, I have the opportunity to be a mindset and an alignment coach. What does that mean? Have you ever been in a place where you feel like you're just stuck at a level, you're doing all of the right actions, but you just can't level up? Have you ever felt like you see somebody on the other side, you're looking at yourself, and you envision this person in your mind who you want to be for your business, for your family, for your team, and you just feel stuck? Has anybody ever felt stuck before? What I get to do is I get to help shift the mindset and shift heart beliefs of how you view yourself. Write this down if you got some notes. It's going to bless you right now. You will never be able to elevate your life above the highest image of how you hold yourself here. I'll say it again. You will never be able to elevate your life, your business, where you are, above the highest image of how you view yourself right here in your heart. This is what we call heart beliefs. How do you see yourself right now in your heart? I'm not talking about the way you look. I'm not talking about the car you drive. I'm not talking about the house you have. I'm talking about, how do you view yourself right here? How do you view yourself as a leader right here? When we begin to tap and shift our heart beliefs and see ourselves higher than where we are right now, your entire life begins to change. Now, I know some of y'all like, man, it's easy for you to say that, but I had this moment in my life where I woke up one day and I was in a prison, and I had to look myself in the face and say, holy shit. I had at a moment in my life where I was actually in a prison cell sentenced to 16 years to life for 6 armed robberies and attempted murder. I was a top-ranked wide receiver, and I wanted to fit in with some of the guys on my team, and so I was driving them around in Los Angeles, and they decided to go pull some robberies, and because I was so afraid of losing their validation, I allowed myself to go along with them. And here I am, I lost every scholarship, I lost everything, and I'm in Chino State Prison on a level 4 yard, and I look myself at where I'm at, being my prison number, and I say to myself, holy shit. See, I want you to understand that your mind is the ship that will get you to where you need to go. Your mind is the ship that is going to elevate your marriage, it's going to elevate your team, it's going to elevate your business. Your mind is the most powerful asset you have. She just shows you who you are. I did this post on Instagram. I was speaking somewhere, and I said, oftentimes, this is for men, and it could go both ways, but oftentimes for men, what happens is when we're trying to choose our crew, we choose our wives, they start talking. And as they start talking, it seems like they start complaining, and it seems like they're nagging. We're like, oh, you're not showing up how you need to. Hey, yo, you need to go out there and go ahead and go and speak to some more people. And hey, you need to contact some. Hey, yo, you're not getting up and doing what you need to do. And oftentimes we will call it nagging. But what I've learned in my life in 17 years of marriage is that what it is that our wives understand who we're supposed to be. And so it's not nagging, they're reminding us that who you said you were going to be and how you're showing up isn't in alignment.
Amen.
Listen, our ushers are going to pass down the offering bucket. And it goes vice versa. But you have to choose your crew. Who do you have on your bench right now? Whether they're on your team, whether they're in your life. If you don't understand, I got to share this with you. You got to know this, that your mindset is a byproduct of your environment. Your mindset is a byproduct of your environment. Sometimes we have people in our life that they do 3-point PowerPoint presentations on how terrible the economy's going to be. You got a presentation of how bad you're going to fail this year. And sometimes we need to shift away from people who are trying to show us how bad the economy is going to be. If you're around people like, oh my God, this new deal is going to just put us in the hole and we're not going to have anything, you're around some wrong people. They got that stinking thinking and you got to get rid of that crew. The third thing that I want you to understand, wait, I need everybody to say, choose your crew. Choose your crew. The third thing that you got to understand is you got to change your direction, not your convictions. When things get challenging in business and when things aren't showing up how we think they should show up, the first thing that goes out the door are our convictions of how we say we're going to run business. We start shortchanging things so I can get some more money because I'm not going to make that much on the back end and maybe I'm not going to make so much on the front end. So maybe if I cut this corner or maybe if I cut them out of this or maybe I can do this deal and that deal. And what we end up doing is that instead of changing our direction and finding out how we can get more creative, we change our convictions. One of my mentors who passed away 5 years ago, Dexter Yeager, he showed me, he says, people of integrity expect to be believed. And when they're not, they let time prove them right. I'm going to say that again. People of integrity expect to be believed. And when they're not, they let time prove them right. Time does two things. Write this down. Time will either expose you or promote you. Time does two things. It will either expose you for being a fraud and not really caring about your clients and not really caring about your business, or it will promote you where people will say, you know what, even though they had the opportunity to make more money, even though they could have cut this person out of the deal, even if they could have done this and done that and cut out all these corners, they chose to honor me and treat me right because they have conviction. People who lose conviction in the face of adversity always end up losing in the end. Why? Because people of integrity expect to be believed. And when you're not, you let time prove you right. When you are in a hardship and things don't work the way you need them to work, change your direction. You're going to be headed this way and thinking this was going to make it work, and you find out that there's an iceberg in front of you on the sea of life. You just simply change your direction, but don't change your conviction. Change your approach, but don't change how you do business. Change the way that you address the situation, but do not change your conviction. Why? Because your conviction is what's going to set you apart from everybody else trying to sell out. I've got some athletes that I deal with, and they're making deals, and they're navigating deals, and they're like, look, I got these people who are coming over here, and they're offering me this. I got this team that's offering me this. But you know what? If I kind of work this away, then I can kind of just ask them, I said, what's your conviction? What do you mean? I got to get the money. Is that all you want? Because at the end of the day, the money will not be able to fulfill the purpose that you want to have. So let's look at the team and figure out what direction you want to go into. You got to change your direction and not your convictions. The fourth thing I want you to understand is don't quit in the dip. Don't quit in the dip. I don't know if you can clearly see it, but to the right there's a ship. And I don't know if you've seen these pictures or these movies where there's this big squall, the storm that comes, and you see this ship and it ends up dipping down, and it looks like the waves are about to completely take the ship out. And then all of a sudden, at the last minute, you see the waves start lifting the ship, and it cuts right through the wave. Why am I telling you this? Because when we get hard news sometimes, we quit. When there's a dip, you quit. I used to close at least 6 to 10 a year, and now I'm only down to 3. There's something wrong with the industry that I'm in, and so you jump ship in the middle of a storm. But if I want to encourage you with anything, I got to tell you, don't quit in the dip. Don't quit just because something gets hard. So then what do I do, Jeff? How do I change this? How do I grow myself? I'm so glad you asked. You go back to number 1, which is understanding how you built your blueprints on your life. See, when things get hard, you have to rely back on how you chose to build your mindset. You have to rely upon the people around you in your life. You got to remind yourself of what you said you were going to be and how you said you were going to show up. When you get to a place where you want to quit in the dip, you have to rely back on your blueprint and tell yourself that I'm made for this. You got to tell yourself, man, there were other things in the business, there were other things in my life that should have taken me out, but I'm still standing. Watch this. Show of hands. Has anybody in this room ever had a problem that you thought was so bad it was going to take you out? Let me see your hands. Come on, keep your hands up. Come on, keep your hands up. Everybody look around. Okay. Are you still here? Thank you. Have a great day. Did you catch what just happened? You had a problem that you didn't think you were going to get through. But the fact that you're still here means that you're stronger than what you're giving yourself credit for. So if that last problem didn't take you out, this new problem isn't going to take you out. Why? Because you were built for this. Somebody say, I was built for this. You were built for this. Any great story in your life has to be built on adversity. Look at the television shows you watch. You don't just have this rose moment where everybody's just skipping through the whole entire movie. You have an upside as well as that's the story of life. And sometimes we quit because we're in one part of our story thinking that ends the chapter. That's all part of your story. Am I right, Dave? Was everything rosy when you started? No. So you had some hardships. Okay, I'm just making sure it's not me. Alex, when you started off, was everything perfect for you? That was a hell no. That wasn't just a no. He said hell no. Aaron, how about you? Always a hardship. Michelle, where you at? Let me see. Michelle, where you at? Oh, there you go. I'm tripping. Did you have everything easy when you started off? Ex-military, started in investments. Now you're a CEO. You must have had an amazingly easy story. Say that again? Nope. So we got a no from Dave. We got a hell no from Alex. We got a no from Michelle. Cyrus, how about you, big dog? You were a professional soccer player. I know that's the easiest job in the world.
No chance.
No chance.
No chance.
And how about when you had to shift. Was it easy for you to shift?
No.
But you're still here.
Still here.
I want you to understand that I'm not giving you motivation. I'm going to help you out. Everybody talks about motivation's terrible. Everybody wants motivation. Let me tell you the difference, okay? When people come up here and they speak, and we give you principles, something will only remain motivational if you think those principles aren't for you. The moment that you believe that what Dave said, what Alex said, what Aaron said, what Michelle said, what Christian said, what Jeff said, if you believe that if you apply those principles, they're for you, now that motivation turns into application. And your life shifts. And so I want you to understand, don't quit in the dip. How do you know this? Because when I was digging through trash cans trying to provide for my family, I did so in a suit jacket. And I would tell myself, Jeff, one day you're going to travel the world and inspire people. One day you're going to have a fund that you'll have, and you'll connect funds and dreams and people, and one day you're going to have companies, and one day you're going to be here. I used to tell myself that while I was digging through trash cans. Everybody told me, Jeff, you'll never amount to anything. Jeff, look at your path, look at where you came through, and the reason why I put on a suit jacket is because I chose not to look like what I was going through. How many of us, when it gets hard, you end up looking like what you're going through? Well, don't look around the room at people. Damn. Some of y'all sliding with $10 like you look like you need it. I made a decision in my life that no matter how hard it was, and no matter what it looked like, and when I felt like a failure to my son and my daughter, and when I couldn't provide for my wife at times, I made a decision to say, I'm going to show up how I want to glow up. I'm going to show up in the end result of who I am as an individual. And so when I coach amazing men and women, I ask them 5 years down the line, who do you see yourself becoming? And they say, I see myself walking in with confidence. I see myself knowing who I am. I see myself saying, I am the baddest mofo in the entire room. If that's who you see yourself, let's copy and paste that person and bring them right now into your future. Watch this, because the word is become. Notice it's not come be. Oftentimes we think that when the things that we want come into our life, and we can be that person. But you don't recognize that the secret sauce is in the being. And when you choose to be who you're supposed to be, everything in your life will. Oh, y'all with me today. The job is to become that man, that woman who have that incredible real estate company, or to become that broker. What would they do if you had everything that you needed? You had the amazing team around you. You had people that uplifted you. How would you carry yourself? How would you conduct your days? How would you wake up? How would you dress? If you ain't got Louis Vuitton, get Louis Vuitton. I don't know what it is. But get something that look close to it. Why? Because you have to understand, you have to be that person, and everything else will come. So don't quit in the dip. It's a part of your story. My mentor told me, he says, Jeff, you know what the name of the game is? I said, what? He says, it's longevity. Do you realize that there are people around you who are worse realtors than you? Don't look around again. Some of y'all are like. You ever seen somebody like, oh my God, that's a terrible way to list your company. Oh my God, they come up and look like a wrinkle bomb hit them coming out of the car. They just, man, how are they getting sales? I know I'm better. I know I sound better. I know I can speak better. And you're watching them win. You want to know why? Because the name of the game is longevity. Sometimes they just outlast people. They're barely there, but they're there. Well, they got hit by a car, like, I'm here, you want to see this house, like, you know. Sometimes staying in the game is the game. Did you hear what I just said? Sometimes staying in the game is the game. It took me 16 years to get where I am now, and I've watched people fall off, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but guess what? I had stickability. I read a book called 3 Feet from Gold. It changed my life. I found out my wife was pregnant. She was still wearing, I found out my wife was permanently disabled. Our kids were already 2 years old, and she was still wearing maternity clothes because I couldn't afford any new clothes for my wife. tax season came, we had $8,000 that were supposed to come to us. I said, baby, when this comes, we're going to Olive Garden. We made it. You get to have the whole tour of Italy, girl. Go ahead and help yourself. But I learned something is that there's something called collections. And when I thought we were able to have some money that would change our lives, I found out that they said, Mr. Osborne, we have garnished all of the $8,000 because you owed some stuff. My wife, I had to hold her while she cried herself to sleep. And I found this book called 3 Feet from Gold. And I stood up and I read the entire book in 2 days. The book completely changed my life because he talked about something called stickability. And sometimes we think that success is just a good idea. But until it's I have to be successful, you won't have it. Is your company building, your team building, you selling your homes, you being an incredible realtor, is it just a great idea or is it I have to? Is it I have to change who I am? I have to change how I think. I have to leave something for my kids. I may not have been grown with wealth. I may not have been born into wealth, but they're going to be wealthy because of me. What is it I have to in your life that has to shift? That if you have stickability, you will outlast everybody else around you. But it's not just holding on. You got to hold on and be excellent in what you do. Excellence is a currency of elevation. What will set you apart from every other realtor? I love what they said. It's not just on the front side when we're dealing with the sellers. It's dealing with the buyers and treating them the same way. It's rolling out the red carpet for everybody who has given you their time and said, I want to do business with you. Because when you do things with excellence, it will be the currency to the elevation in your life. My last and final point, and I'll be done. Celebrate the sun. After every storm in your life, celebrate the sun. After every moment that you didn't think you were going to make it, celebrate the sun. I don't know about y'all, but a brother got out in that sun. I was trying to get 4 shades darker. I was trying to have these tattoos disappear. After all of this rain, I celebrated that sun like nobody's business this morning. When it comes to a moment in your life after you come through a storm, you have to celebrate the sun. Well, Jeff, what do you mean? Do I got to look up in the sky and burn my eyebrows or my eyeballs? No. When I say celebrate the sun, that means I don't care where you are in your life, celebrate every victory. Stop waiting for the big victory to come before you celebrate and give yourself a kudos on your back. Now, don't take your foot off the gas, but acknowledge your win. Well, what's a win? Did you wake up breathing today? You winning. People go, Jeff, how you doing? I said, I'm breathing. I'm having the best day of my life. Let me ask you a question. You guys are all here in person. Did you have gas to get here in your car tanks? Celebrate the sun. That's a win. You got clothes on your back. Some of y'all thank God. That's a win. I'm saying iPhone 15, 25,000s of holding up, watching things. That's a win. If you're still in the business and you still have a business and you still have your license, that's a win. If you ever sold a house in your life, that's a win. If you sold a house this time, it's a win. If you had somebody say, yo, I'm interested, that's a win. Stop waiting until you close the big deal before you celebrate yourself and what you're doing. If you're still standing, celebrate the sun. If your marriage is still intact as you're building and you almost didn't make it, celebrate the sun. If you're better than how you were when you first got into real estate, celebrate the fact that y'all lasted this whole time and didn't dip out. That's a win. Some of them say, yeah, that's a win. Oh, thank you, Jesus. When we don't celebrate the small wins in our life, we miss the indicators that we're doing something right. Did you hear me? When you miss the small wins at your team, and somebody goes, oh my gosh, I booked my first appointment. Instead of you say, well, hopefully you can close it. Celebrate that win for them. Let your team know that they're doing incredible things. Let them know that you love how they're showing up. Let them know that they have had some deals that fell through, but let them know that, hey, guess what? You're still out there. I have a thing thing that I tell my coaching clients. I said, I want you to go get 13 no's today. They said, what? I said, I want you to go out and get at least 13 no's. And they said, what is that going to prove? I said, go out there and get 13 no's. So they called me. Coach. I said, what's up? They said, I got 11 no's. I said, where are the other 3? Or the other 2? And they said, well, those were yeses. See, if you get no's in your business, and even if somebody does you wrong, that means you're still out there. That means you're still taking chances. That means that it is a Monday morning where most people are stuck up in the office. You're here at the Pacific Club in Newport Beach. Hearing some incredible people to empower your life. That's a win. So I want you to celebrate the sun. Because exactly what he shared, I think Cyrus shared this. He says, every time you wake up with gratitude, you fix your attention to what's going right in your life. I tell everybody this, and I'm going to close with something. I tell everybody that whatever it is you magnify manifests. And whatever you look for, you will find. Whatever you magnify will manifest. And whatever you look for, you will find. If you're trying to look for everything that is going wrong in the industry, everything that's going wrong with the news, everything that's going wrong with somebody, if you're looking at me and you're in the front row, you're like, why is he bow-legged and pigeon-toed? Like, don't worry about that. I'm aerodynamic. Whatever it is that you're looking for, you're going to find. And so my desire, my prayer, my hope for you is that by the time I'm done, which is going to be in the next 35 seconds, that you will understand that you've got something to be excited about. So here's what I want you to do. I want everybody to get on your feet. Come on, one more time. I'm working on your thigh muscles. Some of y'all are like, man, I went to church already. I went to mass yesterday. You got me going up and down. Here's what I want you to do. I know we're in the Pacific Club. And I know some of y'all look real nice in your suits. I know that some of y'all, as much as you want to try, your Botox won't let you scream. And that's me. I got Botox too. But I want you to get to a place where you begin to celebrate yourself and celebrate your life. And so if you've never done it in your business, here's what I want you to do on the count of 3. Don't try to look all cute and dignified. Don't do that. Nobody gonna see this on the gram. Well, somebody might see this on the gram, so Instagram. But here's what I want you to do on the count of 3. They may kick us out, Michelle. I only got one shot at this. You never asked me to come back. I'm okay with it, all right? Here's what we need. This is all about your mindset shifting on the count of 3. I want you guys to applaud, and I want you to yell or shout or get excited for the win that you have. Are y'all with me? Yeah. Don't look at me and try to be cute. I'm going to call you out. On the count of 3, y'all ready? Yes. You're going to shout and applaud for the sun that's in your life. 1. Think of that one thing. If you showed up today, then that's what it is. 2. Think about the victory that's on the other side of your yell. 3. 1, 2, 3. Let me hear you right now.
How cool is that? I'm so excited. This ended up being an amazing event, I think. So I want to hear from you guys. This is the first one we've done in a really long time, live. And I want to know if you like it, and I want to know what you liked about it and what you don't like about them. So I'm not going to send out a survey, just email me. You all have my email address. And tell me what you thought. And then a couple of housekeeping Jacob is still doing his class on the tactical aspects. 9 o'clock every morning? 9 o'clock every morning. And then Cyrus started a YPN group just for first teamers.
Yep.
We'll allow other people.
We'll allow them to give
If
them
they're,
time.
we're Big Ten people.
Yeah.
When is that?
May 2nd, we're going to do a happy hour from 5 to 8 p.m. May 2nd at Anaheim Golden Road.
Awesome.
So put it on your calendar.
How young is why?
Young at heart.
All right. There's no like threshold, like.
No, there's no threshold.
Okay. If you feel young, you can go to that.